Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to BARCastTV and to another episode of Roast My Replay. Today we have another user-submitted video here from a Mr. Diogenes Lantern, and we're going to be taking a look at what he could have done differently in this replay to improve his play. So he ended up sending me a first AI, but this should be sufficient enough. I understand some people have a little bit of ladder anxiety, 1v1ing other players, so if this is what you're comfortable doing, then I'm sure I can still analyze a lot of the bigger, broader strokes of what you could be doing to improve your play. So let's go ahead and get into the replay. See a couple mistakes so far, but I don't want to get too far into this without noticing really what's going on. So looks like this is a great wind speed map, so I don't really mind just going wind turbine right after your first metal extractor. And it seems like, perhaps we could. Yeah, I would recommend going like 2 mechs, 2 wind turbines into bot lab. I see you have this nice queued up here, so not the biggest deal. Pretty cool to see you're just kind of really not moving with your commander just yet, so really utilizing the build range properly here. Kind of immediately started building this metal extractor when the game started, and there was a first quite little bit of a mistake. Just kind of turned and went for a little walk with your commander. We could have very well tucked up our bot lab a little closer to this first mechs here. And I would also say to orientate your factory's output towards your opponent. Be a nice little improvement, I suppose, in the positioning of this. So I'll pause the replay. Great wind speed on this map, so pretty standard open, 2 mechs, 2 wind turbines into bot lab here. And I see we're going to be capping this additional mechs, so kind of touching on the point is we want to be utilizing our commander's build range as best as possible. So we could have very well spawned with our commander here and have been able to construct all these buildings you have queued up without moving the commander at all. We could cap these 2 mexes, add the wind turbines, produce the bot lab, mechs, 2 more wind turbines, and I see you have an LLT queued up, which I don't mind too much, especially if we're going to be moving out of the main base with the commander early on. Really doesn't hurt to have this LLT covering our production and early mexes, so not the biggest of deal. Looks like we go 2 pawns into construction, 2 pawns so far. I don't see anything else queued up. I don't mind this build order, just making the early pawns first. Seems like you're sending them directly across the map. Not sure what you're planning to get done with that, if you want to scout where your opponent's at or just try and get some early damage. And short of these like 2 pawns, I would go into construction bots eventually. That's kind of maybe a stylistic thing. I could be wrong on this, but still have some mass in the bank. 400 mass is a lot. And you're stalling on energy, so it looks like we kind of stopped producing this LLT. So if you're going to keep your commander in your main base, assisting your factory, I don't really see a need to make this LLT. And furthermore, we could have been adding on an additional maybe 2 wind turbines and kind of balance our eco a little better. You can see how much of a draw this commander is. Minus 128 power per tick to assist this factory. So given the current wind speed, that's about 5 wind turbines to assist that. This factory is costing, does it give us an estimate? Yeah, minus 43 power per tick, so that's an additional 2 wind turbines, so we're at 7 total. And we can see that would kind of alleviate some of these power differences. Unfortunately, this power is dropping. There's 0 wind risk on this map, so that's interesting. I've never seen that before. And I see you're adding an additional wind turbines, and I think maybe we could improve our SimCity a little bit. I'd say like tuck your wind turbines, maybe put like 6 wind turbines here and then like 2 over here, something like that. You could make a case for spreading them out so they can't get bombed, but really, I think at this early in the game, I don't see a big of an issue kind of stacking these wind turbines together real tight, even though they're a little more vulnerable to kind of run bys from this direction here. That would serve like having an LLT or maybe a radar at this point, and we're able to defend these units with those structures with our early game pawns. So haven't quite built a construction bot just yet, and I would like to comment on this map actually. So if you go and look around, there's quite a bit of a reclaim. There's metal reclaim, which is a lot more valuable than these trees. There's a lot of metal reclaim. So if you actually went Lazarus first and just kind of like control clicked around the map, you want to pick up these all these rocks as quickly as you can. Get that mass into your economy, so we can make we can stay in the main base with the commander longer, assisting our factory or just making more units. So we're constructing our first, getting our first construction bot out right now. And notice how we're still like teetering on the edge of stalling eco-wise. I still think, a couple more wind turbines would do you some justice. And of course, just like in my previous match, you want to have 2 construction bots per 5 metal per tick and 100 power. So given the current wind speed, 100 power is about 4 wind turbines. So you want like 2 for the factory, 2 for the 5 for the assisting commander, and an additional 2 wind turbines for this assisting construction bot. So could spend that early mass a little bit better, and that's really the name of the game. It's like we start with, 1,200 mass, 1,000 mass. The idea is to spend it as quickly as possible, and you can even jump into a game that doesn't even have it, like an inactive AI, and see exactly how quickly you can spend this mass. Even if you end up stalling, you want to get a baseline of what it feels like to, as quickly as possible, spend this mass, and then you can kind of refine from there. Okay, well, I want to be leaving then to expand, or instead of making 2 construction bots, I'll do two pawns, 2 construction bots, then move out with my commander. So kind of play around with it. It doesn't really hurt to see where you're at. And maybe I can comment. I don't really like to talk too much about micro when there's macro mistakes happening on your side of the board, but really, like, what you can ask yourself, like, what does it serve to be on my opponent's side of the map right now, this early in the game? I mean, we know his main base is over here, and he has mexes exposed, windmills exposed, right? Not covered by LLTs. You see this AI is making another LLT to kind of cover this top side of his base. But really, I mean, as soon as you see this commander, you should be backing up. I mean, you lost 2 pawns for free, basically, when that could have very well been, these 2 pawns could have been a construction bot, could have been, sucking up this reclaim, assisting the factory, giving a chance for a commander to expand to, these north and south mexes. So really, the earlier we get these construction bots out, the earlier we spend this starting mass. I would value that over producing these pawns for now, at this stage, at your skill level. I would value that over trying to raid your opponent, right? And we're still like kind of stalling on energy, right? So you really want to see, you really want to balance your eco and get those additional wind turbines out. They have on their website, it's about, I guess I'll repeat myself, it's, per 2 construction bots or 1 construction turret per 5 metal per tick and 100 energy. So this is great damage, actually. So I don't want to like kind of beat you up too much about your pawn positioning and play. So decent rating so far against the AI. So we're continuing to add on construction bots, and at this point, you might want to start thinking about expanding. I mean, there's 4 mexes that are very close to our main base here, so I kind of lean towards expanding with our commander. We can use that extra build power, 300 build power, and what would it be? Like, it's less vulnerable to early raiding, so we can keep these construction bots in the main base. Maybe when we think about stepping outside, we add on our LLTs and leave these assisting construction bots in our main base. So not a bad unit composition. I see you're making a Rocketeers and a Mace. Cortex versus, Armada versus Cortex. I kind of like mixing these Maces in a little earlier just because the pawns are outranged by the grunts, and a good player will abuse that, and it's hard to deal with. So having a couple Maces in your army kind of will shoo away these grunts. They can't just kite your pawns all day. One thing I noticed about your SimCity here is look how these wind turbines are kind of getting in the way of our factory's output. You really don't want to block the production. I'm curious to see if later on in the replay these wind turbines actually start affecting the output of your factory. So it might, you know, slow down your production a little bit. So maybe this Rocketeer isn't too good. I mean, he has an LLT, but it's like, are you really going to use the rocket bot to like kill these LLTs in his main base? I would argue that might be more efficient. Like if you see like kind of forward LLTs here, or like maybe over here, if he has some LLTs, then yeah, you can walk those rocket bots out and take those LLTs out before going in with your pawns. But really, like, I mean, it's 3 pawns to make to the cost of 1 rocket bot, and at this stage in the game, well, you can just attack the LLT with 8 pawns and kill it. So might be more useful to start thinking about adding these Rocketeers when the game slows down a little bit. There's LLTs everywhere choking up the map. You're in a split map scenario. And these energy converters, I don't necessarily agree with. Like, there is kind of low-hanging fruit of mass to expand to, and I would always go for a split map before we start thinking about adding on energy converters. So you want to be splitting the map, capping all the mexes, balancing your energy to factory production, and then we can start thinking about, okay, well, how do I scale my economy up past my opponents, given the fact we're both in a split map? That, you know, I need to get an economic advantage somehow. That's when we can start thinking about adding on these energy converters. So really too early. I think they actually have a tooltip that these take about like 4 minutes to pay for themselves, something like that. So it's quite a long time. And we even started building one here and stopped constructing it. So let's take a look at this factory output now that this wind turbine is in the way, and even we have some bot labs kind of moving towards. So this is the exact point. Watch this unit come out. It'll rotate on the platform and then move out, and that's delaying the next unit from starting. Watch this again. So the unit rotates and then moves instead of just immediately walking off of this factory production. So don't want that to happen. You're really slowing down your production that way. I don't know if that's kind of the biggest deal in bar as it was in subcom, but yeah, this is some decent rating. If you're beating up a computer this bad, you jump on the ladder, Lantern. See how you do, man. Those losses will be more meaningful, or even your wins will be more meaningful, but the losses will be against an opponent who's thinking, trying to make you make mistakes, out microing you perhaps. So there's really a lot to be learned from having a human opponent. And you know, the losses are just opportunities to learn. So there's nothing to be afraid of. Jumping on the ladder, win or lose, there's something to be gained, something to learn from. And really, I would value at this skill level, right? It's like, hey, what is my game plan? Am I trying to improve at this game, or do I want to win games, right? It's like, well, I think every player at any skill level should prioritize learning over winning. I mean, unless you're playing for money, I mean, it's more about, you know, taking that loss, analyzing the replay, and figuring out, what did you do wrong? What can I do to improve? What systematic errors am I making what systematic errors am I making? What can I correct in my play, you know, over random errors? You know, there's systematic and random errors. And you can always be looking for those systematic errors in your play that you can correct, and easily correct, I should say. Not so much like, oh, you know, a dice roll, this rocket didn't connect on the radar signature that was moving. You know, it's kind of like random things happening in this game. Finally, we're moving out with our commander towards the center of the map, and I don't want to go too much farther in this replay. I mean, it looks like it's kind of getting close to being over. I'm not sure if you wanted me to analyze this whole thing, but really, some of the bigger picture things would just be balancing your economy. You see how we're stalling on mass now? And there's 4 mexes right around your main base. There's 80 mass, there's 80 at 160, you know, 240, 320. A lot of mass around here you can be scooping up. I mean, 320 mass is 10 more grunts, right? So you could have very well produced 10 more grunts before moving out of the main base with your commander if we had produced one of these early Lazarus. I mean, they're only 110 mass. All you have to do is scoop up this rock here, this rock here. It's already more than paid for itself. and then you can start scooping up this mass all around the map. So really look for that low-hanging fruit. You really want to be expanding more quickly and balancing your economy better. So I'm not sure how much farther I want to go into analyzing this replay, other than kind of maybe restating the fact that, I'd encourage you, and for that, any, newer bar player who's looking to get into 1v1s, just jump on the ladder, man. No one's gonna, no, there's no boogeyman out there. I mean, you can take the L, be a big man, take it on the chin, learn from your mistakes, and let's all get better at this game together. I'd like to see more great players on the ladder, showing us good games, competing in these tournaments that are going to be coming up, and maybe taking someone under your wing. Someone who wants to get into the game, show them the game, show them the ropes. Definitely be in a much better position if you've improved your skill level at 1v1s. So I hope this kind of replay analysis helps. I don't really see any more things I want to touch on. Looks like this computer's on the ropes. You got him on the ropes. Just finish him off. Anyways, so I hope this helps again. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next replay.